Imagine waking up tomorrow and your entire country is simply gone. Not conquered, not renamed, gone. No invading army marches through your streets. No treaty gets signed. One day, millions of people are living their lives, and the next, historians 2,000 years later, are still arguing about what happened to them. That sounds impossible, but it happened. And the empire it happened to once controlled more territory than Rome at its peak. This is the story of the Bronze Age collapse and the vanishing of the Hittite Empire. Around 1300 BCE, the Hittites ruled a vast stretch of Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, and pushed deep into the Levant. Their capital, Hattusa, held an estimated population of 40,000 people, protected by walls over 6 kilometers long. They negotiated as equals with Egypt. In 1274 BCE, Hittite king Muwatalli II fought Ramesses II to a standstill at the Battle of Kadesh, one of the largest chariot battles ever recorded, with estimates of 5,000 chariots on the field. 15 years later, the two empires signed what many historians consider the oldest surviving peace treaty in the world, a copy of which still sits in the Istanbul Archaeology Museum today. So how does a civilization that powerful just disappear? By around 1180 BCE, Hattusa was abandoned and burned. Within 2 generations, nearly every major city across the eastern Mediterranean collapsed alongside it. Ugarit, Mycenae, Troy, over 40 cities gone in roughly 50 years. Egyptologist Eric Klein, in his book 1177 BC, The Year Civilization Collapsed, calls this the closest thing history has to an apocalypse. Not one empire falling, almost all of them at once. For decades, the leading suspect was an invasion. Egyptian records describe raiders called the Sea Peoples, and Ramesses III boasted of defeating them around 1177 BCE. Case closed, right? An outside force sweeps through and wipes out the Bronze Age. Except the evidence doesn't hold up that simply. Here's the twist. Recent climate research tells a very different story. A 2013 study led by geoarchaeologist David Kaniewski, published in PLOS One, examined pollen samples from Cyprus and Syria. The data pointed to a severe, sustained drought beginning around 1200 BCE and lasting roughly 150 years. Tree ring records from Anatolia back this up, showing 3 consecutive years of extreme dryness, right as the Hittite Empire was destabilizing. Grain shipments mentioned in Hittite royal letters begging Egypt for emergency wheat suggest a kingdom already starving before a single invader arrived. So which was it? Drought or invaders? Probably both feeding each other. Crops failed. Trade routes that moved copper and tin for bronze weapons broke down. Cities that depended on food imports had nothing to trade and nothing to eat. Populations that lost their homes to famine became the very raiders later empires blamed for the collapse. The Sea Peoples weren't necessarily a foreign army. Some historians now argue they were partly displaced Anatolians and Mycenaeans, refugees from the same collapse, pushed into piracy and raiding just to survive. A superpower didn't get invaded. It starved, fractured, and dissolved into the very chaos it once controlled. And here's the part that should unsettle you. The Hittites weren't primitive. They had iron-working technology before almost anyone else on Earth, a 200-year diplomatic peace with Egypt, and a bureaucracy sophisticated enough to leave behind over 30,000 clay tablets, most now housed in Turkey's Museum of Anatolian Civilizations. They had writing, they had law codes, they had international trade networks spanning thousands of kilometers. None of it saved them. Complexity, it turns out, is fragile. The more interconnected a system becomes, the more a single disruption can cascade through the whole thing. Modern researchers studying the Bronze Age collapse increasingly compare it to something economists call a systems collapse, where multiple pressures, climate, famine, trade breakdown, and conflict arrive together and overwhelm a civilization's ability to adapt to any one of them alone. Does that sound familiar? Today, roughly 40% of the world's population depends on food grown more than 1,000 kilometers from where they live. Global supply chains move grain, fuel, and manufactured goods across oceans in systems almost nobody fully understands end to end. It works until it doesn't. A shipping blockage, a multi-year drought, a single failed harvest in a major export exporting region, and the strain shows up on shelves and in prices thousands of kilometers away within weeks. The Hittites had no warning system for a 100-year drought. You do. Climate scientists today can track rainfall patterns, soil moisture, and crop yields in near real time across the entire planet using satellite data that updates daily. The information the Hittites desperately needed, buried in ash and clay tablets for over 3,000 years, is something you could pull up on a phone in seconds. That's the strange privilege of living now. You hold in your pocket the exact kind of foresight that could have saved an empire. So the next time your country, your city, your life feels permanent, remember Hattusa. Remember a capital of 40,000 people, walls 6 kilometers long, a peace treaty with Egypt that lasted generations, reduced to ash and silence within 2 human lifetimes. Nothing about power makes a civilization permanent. Only the ability to see what's coming and choose to listen does. Waking up tomorrow to a country that's simply gone isn't just an ancient nightmare. It's a warning history already tried to give you once.